So good evening, everyone. Would like to welcome you officially to our 2023 pre-camp leader meeting for Camp Gamble, part of the SBRF Scout Ranch and the Greater St. Louis Area Council. Tonight, joining me, I should say, not us, is our camp director for 2023, Bobby Kay. Bobby, if you have anything you want to say just before as we're kicking off, I'll throw it to you for a second.
I think you've probably got it, Matt. Some of you might have met me before. I worked Camp Gamble back from 2008 to 2011 and then switched from 2012 to 2014. This is when you are down at camp, you might see my wife and kids down there. Or sorry, they look like this. So if you see those people walking around camp, they're supposed to be there. But yeah, so I'll throw it back to you, Matt.
Sure. And my name is Matt Kaufman. I serve as the camping director for the Greater St. Louis Area Council, and I'll be serving as the ranch director this summer. I've been at Camp Famous Eagle the last 2 years, and then about 10 summers prior to that as the camp director at Rhodes France Scout Reservation that was formerly part of Lincoln Trails Council and now part of Greater St. Louis Area Council. So I'm going to leave that on the screen just for a second so you can grab that contact information if you need it. It is also available. Mine is on the council website. At any point you have questions, you can reach out through there, or you can contact our council help desk. That is help@stlbsa.org. You can reach out that way and our support staff will get that to the right person or be able to answer the questions that you might have through the help desk. So one thing before we get too into details tonight, you'll see on the screen the 2023 Camp Leader Guide. That QR code, if you scan it, it will take you right to a PDF of the Leader Guide. Or you can find that and a lot of other resources on the website that's on the screen, that stlbsa.org/camps. For those resources, you'll see a blue menu bar, says Camp Resources/information. If you click on that, it's a big drop down and has all kinds of forms. The like refund request forms, campership application, the special diet form, all things that we'll talk about as we go throughout the meeting tonight. But that page is the starting point to find all of those documents that you might need. And again, Leader's Guide is an important one. Even if you've been coming to Camp Gamble for many, many years, we do appreciate you taking a look through the Leader Guide to catch up on anything that may be changed or different for this year. So we do have, I'll hit this one real quick. Some important dates on the screen. You'll notice the first one is actually passed, but we left it up there just so you were aware of it. That early bird savings day, that was to pay in full by that day to receive $20 off. Now, if you have scouts that still cross over into your troop or join brand new to scouting between now and summer camp, let us know. We will apply that discount to them. If they weren't part of the program before, we don't want to penalize them in any ways. We want to make sure that they still qualify for that early bird rate. So if they do sign up and need that, just let us know. You can reach out through the help desk or to me, and we'll apply that discount on the backside to make sure that that is still there for anyone that is new to the scouting program. May 1st is our campership application deadline. Camperships can pay for up to half of the camp cost for anyone at any Greater St. Louis Area Council youth attending camp. So make sure that if there is that financial need, that they apply for assistance. That is what that program is for. We want to make sure that the finances are not preventing any scout from attending camp. We know that units have their own fundraising. Camp card sales are going on at the moment, popcorn sales each fall, and various other things that you all do throughout the year. But if there is still the need, make sure they apply. That's what that fund is there for. Last year, we gave out a lot less in camperships just because we had fewer applications. So we want to make sure that if there is a need, that individuals apply for that assistance. And then the last date on there is May 31st, when final payments are due for summer camp. You can still add scouts after that part or after that date, but there is another price change there on June 1st. So making sure that you get as many of those fully paid before that point so that we are ready to go. Sorry, just reading one of the questions there in the chat. So we'll make sure that the staff has seen that and familiar with that. We do have a camp staff training day coming up on the 29th where that can be addressed quickly with the staff to make sure that they do see that. That can often be one that the camp staff don't necessarily see. Bobby, if you want to do this one, I'll let you. I'll get the points pulled up and then shut up for a few minutes.
Perfect. So I think most of us are familiar with these points, but just to go over them, make sure that you always have 2 registered leaders who are at least 21 years old at camp. Registered means that they're actually have submitted an application, have had their background check done, and are covered by BSA's insurance. If you are a G troop or a female troop, make sure that you have at least 1 registered female leader who is over 21 years old. This is one that kind of trips me up a little bit. I always think it's over 18, but it's actually over 21. Any adult who will be staying a total of 72 hours must be registered as well. Those don't need to be consecutive. So if somebody comes on Monday, Tuesday, they leave on Wednesday to go back to St. Louis, and then they come back Thursday, Friday, they do still need to be registered. It is changing on September 1st. Anybody staying overnight needs to be registered. So I would just recommend making sure if people are staying overnight, you just get them registered anyway. That way they've had their youth protection training. They're covered by the insurance and a number of other benefits. If you got any concerns or questions about any of that, you can email me or Matt.
Yep. I did see a hand raised on one of the screens. So Katie, if you have a question, you can either type it into the chat. So as we go throughout, Bobby and I will both kind of look at the chat and answer questions as the other may be talking. But if you do have a question that you'd like to verbally ask, we will do that kind of near the end of the meeting when we have some time set aside for specific questions that we haven't covered when we get to that point. All right. Want to remind everyone of a few things to do registration wise from now until when camp starts. The first thing there is just making sure that your numbers are accurate. We struggle seeing this quite a bit where units will have a lot of spots reserved and then they need to delete them off or whatever it is. It helps us greatly to have as accurate numbers as possible as we're going into our final planning stages before the summer starts. So make sure that those numbers are accurate. You can add scouts or leaders at any time leading up until summer camp. So you can do that right in the online system in the reservation. Once you're in there, you just click on the additional actions button and then click add participants. You choose the type. There's either youth, adult, or part-time adult. So you can add those in and get them all added in as needed. The next thing is requesting deletions. So if you have spots that you don't need, so you haven't gotten a name assigned with it, no money paid for that, you thought, when you made the reservation, you would need extra spots that you don't now need. There is a form that you need to complete. It's an online simple form to tell us to be able to delete those, because that's one function that you can't do on your own. And if you have scouts that have paid, that have money that is sitting there allocated to them and they need a refund for that, there's that refund request form that would need to be completed in order to get that process moving. This far out, refunds are a little bit more easily processed as we get closer to camp, especially within 30 days. The percentages can drop, or we then fall into the extenuating circumstances, emergencies, and all for why a refund would be granted. So if you do think that you're going to have that situation, the sooner the better to get those refunds in. Again, those forms, both the request deletions and the refund request form, are on that stlbsa.org/camps under that resources menu. Make sure that you're getting names assigned to all of the spots that are in your reservation, both youth and adult. The system does kind of do a check back against our membership records so that we're verifying that everyone is registered that needs to be. So that just helps us look at things a little earlier, and it helps you make sure that your roster is accurate as you're getting closer to camp. Making sure that your adults are registered. I know a lot of troops wait till a little closer, and in some cases that's fine. If you don't know for sure who's going to attend yet, that happens. I was a scoutmaster before I got into the professional scouting role, so I know how planning for summer camp can go. But you can add those adults at any time, so make sure you get them in there as well. You do have the option to put someone in for the full week, or you can, it was actually a new feature last year to register adults as part-time adults, where you put in their name and then select the days of the week that they're going to be attending camp. And then it's a prorated fee for those part-time adults. So that is another option for your adults as they're coming in and out throughout the week. And of course, making sure that the scouts are getting signed up for classes. Many of you have already been working on that process. We know sometimes it's difficult to get the scouts to make a decision, and then they change their mind a few times, and then one more time when they get to camp. We can work with those changes. We just want to make sure that they are getting signed up as soon as possible, just so they know that they've got their classes set and can work on any pre-work that they need to complete. Last thing on this page, talking about special dietary needs. If you do have any certain dietary restrictions, whether it be due to allergies, health, or other religious needs, make sure that you go on to that site that we've discussed, that stlbsa.org/camps, and complete that special dietary request form. It's a simple Google form so that we can then share it easily with the food service staff who is packing the meals that will come over to Gamble, and they'll know the special needs that they need to meet for that week. Make sure that they do this ahead of time. You should know, in most cases, you camp with the scouts year round. Unless it's a newer scout, you're probably going to be familiar with their needs, but make sure the parents get on there and complete that form. If the food service staff have any questions about that, there'll be a contact there that they can reach back out to make sure that they're understanding those requests and have adequate supply of food to meet them. So we don't want to have any scout get to camp and then not have food that first meal that they can eat because we didn't get that form submitted soon enough. Moving into some additional information here. A week or two prior to camp, or sooner if the camp administration wants to get it out a little earlier, the registration contact for your troop will receive what we call the camp program form. It's a simple Google form that has several questions to help the staff at the camp be better prepared to receive you on move-in day. It'll ask about different equipment needs, number of patrols, size of patrols, things like that. Just to make sure that we're as prepared as we can be for your arrival at camp. So when you see that, if you're not the registration contact, make sure that they know to look for that and forward it to the right person to get that completed. Bobby, thank you for dropping that special dietary request form into the chat for everyone. You can copy that or click on it and then save it to your bookmark so you have it. That'll be helpful for you as you help share that out with the parents. So just be on the lookout for that program form and make sure you answer it as quickly as you can to get that information back to the camp staff. Saves the business manager having to make a bunch of phone calls when they're trying to track you all down prior to your arrival. Just a easy way to complete that. We'll talk briefly about the BSA medical forms that everyone will need to have. So, of course, health forms are required for all the attendees, both youth and adult, and they have to be on the actual BSA annual health and medical record, which is the one pictured there. You can see it linked on the website as well. But make sure that that is the form that they're using. School physicals are not, they don't count for this. We have to use the right form. If a leader is attending for 72 hours or less, they can simply use parts A and B of the form. That is okay at that point, but they do need to still have that part A and B when they check in with us upon arrival at camp. The forms have to be completed within the last 12 months. So that Part C, especially the physician's review and examination within 12 months of your time at camp. Now, that is actually 12 months to the end of the month. So my example is always, if last year you had a scout that had his physical completed on June 15th before coming to camp, and then this year that physical will be good until June 30th. So it's good until the last day of the month, a year after it is completed. So if they are one of those that may have done it in June last year and they're coming again to camp in June this year, they could get by with the same form and not have to update it. But anything over that 12 months, it needs to be current. And we strongly encourage all the unit leaders to check over these before you arrive at camp. Collect them a week or two ahead of time. Normally you'll have the parts A and B already, but getting that part C so that you can look over everything, make sure it's complete, that just saves a lot of time and all upon check-in and when we do the medical rechecks with the staff at camp. Things to be particularly attentive to are signatures, making sure that they're on any line that it's required for. One thing that a lot of people miss is on that front page that you can see, there's a little tiny checkbox that's just marked none. If they have no restrictions, that box should be checked. And then the allergies on part B is another one that frequently gets missed because it's in 2 columns on the newest form, and the right-hand column usually gets missed. So just making sure that those forms are complete will save a lot of headaches once you arrive at camp for check-in. We'll mention pre-camp swim checks. These are becoming more and more common as we go throughout the years of camp. If at all possible, we do encourage pre-camp swim checks. It can really speed up your check-in day. And that whole process make your move in a lot smoother and easier. You're not then going down and getting in the lake partway through checking in and everything else. If you do take advantage of that program, you will use the BSA swim classification record. That's the name of the actual form. It is on our website in that resources link or menu as well. On the back of that page, it gives the instructions on how many yards and what strokes and all of that someone conducting the test would need to know. That does need to be conducted by a certified lifeguard. And I will say that the facility must meet the needs of the test. So that might sound a little odd, but the first requirement is to jump into water over your head and then level off. If you have a pool that is 4 feet deep, that won't cut it. So make sure that they are using a facility that you can complete that test. That form would typically be given either at the aquatics director at camp as part of your check-in. Your troop counselor can help with that process. They'll know what to do with it. One thing to remind you of, though, the aquatic staff can require the scout to retest if they deem it necessary. If they're seeing that they're struggling or anything like that, they may run them through a swim test just to make sure that their swim classification is correct. That's just for safety purposes in the water. You have a scout that may complete the test in a pool, and then in a lake, they're not doing as well because a little unfamiliar with them swimming at the aquatics area at camp. So that may be a little bit of recheck, but again, just for safety of the scout. And as I mentioned, it can definitely speed up your check-in day if you've already gotten the majority of your swim tests done. So we will jump into talking some about specific program information for camp this summer. Again, if at any point throughout any of this you have questions or afterwards, you can reach out with any of those questions that you might have so that we can make sure you're well prepared for camp this year. So the question on swimming merit badge counselor, if they are a certified lifeguard, they can perform that swim test. But they have to be either Red Cross, BSA lifeguard, or another qualified organization that has a lifeguard certification to sign off on that. First program that we want to mention tonight is the Wayfinder program, which is, you'll know in the past the name Voyager, where 2 years ago we revamped this a little bit into the or last year, I guess it was, into the Wayfinder program, where it is done a little differently now, where the sessions that are available, there are 3 different time periods where a scout can sign up for the Wayfinder program. So 1 hour session will be covering scout and tenderfoot rank requirements that are fit for completing at the outdoors at camp. Another hour will be second class, and that second class session is actually offered twice, once at 10 and once at 11, and that's to open up one of those time frames for them to be able to take other merit badges if they are taking the second class rank session. And then the first class session will be after lunch each day throughout the week. So scouts can sign up for 1, 2, or all 3 of those sessions. It is covering the rank requirements that are, again, suitable for the outdoors and doing at summer camp. There should be on the registration page for summer camp on that Black Pug site in the attachments, a description of the program and listing of the ranks or the rank requirements that are going to be covered in the program this summer. So you can see those ahead of time. To explain a little bit about the process of it, all of the scouts will receive instruction and hands-on time to participate in these requirements, but the staff do not formally sign that off as complete. That is a responsibility of the unit, and we don't want to take that away from it. We want to make sure that the unit leadership is aware of their abilities and are doing that sign off. We will provide a record at the end of the week of the skills that they were instructed in. And if you choose to take that as, yeah, we're going to sign it off, that's okay. But again, we're not the ones that will formally be doing that sign off on the requirements. This program was redeveloped or redid a little bit to give those scouts a little bit more flexibility. Not everyone needed all of the portions of the rank requirements that they were doing. So this just frees it up, gives them a little bit more flexibility in their schedule as they attend their first year of summer camp. We'll talk briefly about family night as well. The Thursday nights at SBRF is family night. We do ask that families try to not arrive until around 5 o'clock or after, simply because program is still happening at that point, leading up until 5. It gets a little bit hectic if a lot of parents are there and your scouts are still in classes or in open swim or over at Huck's Cove or whatever it might be. So 5 o'clock or after to start arriving. Unless you are providing a meal in your campsite on your own that night that is not part of what we're providing from the camp, we won't have guest meals available for that. But again, if you're doing that on your own and doing your own food that night, which some units do, just make sure that the camp administration knows that and they'll know to not have the other food available, or whatever you work out with them is fine. Typically, the staff will do a small short campfire leading up until the Order of the Arrow call out ceremony that will happen that evening between 8:15, 8:30 when they will get kicked off with that ceremony. So family night's a great time to come down and visit, see the scouts and see the camp a little bit for those family members. We do ask that they leave the scouts at camp when they go home. You may have those homesick scouts that are wanting to go home. Usually by Thursday night, it's all right. They don't want to as much, but hopefully they let them finish out that experience, get that long-term camp finalized throughout the week. And usually it's the parents that are more sad that the kid is gone than the kid is sad to be gone, it seems. All right. Next, I've not seen anything pop up question-wise. We'll discuss the Apex program. Formerly known just as the Older Scout program. We did get a name change on that 2 years ago. So it's scouts 14 and up can participate in this. It's a very flexible program schedule for those older scouts. If they want to participate in everything that's on the schedule for Apex, they can. If they want to pick and choose, that's perfectly fine. The group will meet on Sunday evening around 7:15. to go over that schedule and just kind of tell the camp staff which ones they're planning to be at throughout the week so that we have numbers and are ready to meet the needs of all of those programs. There's no additional fee for that program itself. And there's some definitely some unique experiences that are part of the schedule. We are finalizing that. We've got 2 afternoon spots that we're still plugging in the program to at the moment. The Monday and Tuesday afternoons, we're trying to figure out how those are going to look for sure. But that schedule will get pushed out to all the registered adults in our system for summer camp as soon as it is finalized, so that you see that schedule now. If a scout wants to take a certain merit badge, have them sign up for the merit badge. They can sign up for Apex alongside that, and then they may just go to the class, miss that section of the Apex program, and then come back to it at a later time. Very flexible. The staff will work with them no matter what. Some items that are on the schedule, we've got the cowboy action shoot, sporting arrows for the archery experience, climbing and rappelling. They will be on the ropes course at some point throughout the week as well. We've thrown in a I just called it a pontoon cruise. One of the evenings have the ability for those older scouts just to gather. The staff will run them around on Nims Lake in one of the pontoons just to kind of hang out, enjoy, see the camp from the lake, the entire property. Should be a fun time. We'll try to get some snacks along with that as well. There's an opportunity for them to visit the SBRF Ranger program while they are there, see kind of what is going on with that program, learn more about it. So they may be looking at it for a future year. But again, once the schedule is 100% finalized, we will get that pushed out to everyone so that you can see that. Some new information on how we're handling one of the aspects of camp that I think scout leaders and scouts have found a little frustrating at different times. Certain classes take different kits to complete, whether it be a leatherworking kit, basketry, the arrow that they have to build for archery merit badge, whatever it might be. In the past, we had a system of, in the leader guide, it would say this kit is needed to complete this, expected cost. Scouts can get it at the trading post. What that turned into more often than not is Mondays being mass chaos in the program areas as a scout goes, oh, I don't have that yet, and then is trying to get to the trading post or back to their campsite where their money might be or whatever it is. So you may see some classes that had a class fee associated with it this year that didn't in the past. That is simply buying that kit through that class fee, and then we will provide it in the program area and distribute it to the scouts in that class. We'll take care of making sure it's all there. That way it's done. They don't have to panic and get to the trading post at any point. We'll get it to them on Monday in their classes so that they have it as needed when they arrive at camp. So it's just a little change in how it's being done, collecting that up front and then getting the kits to them in the classes. But wanted to kind of clarify that since it is a little different for this year, so everyone understood the thought process there. Some of the additional programs that will take place throughout the week in the camp leader guide, there'll be a page that's talking about aquatics. On that page, it will discuss the open swimming and open boating times. They're assigned by campsite, so you'll see those in the leader guide and know when that time is. That'll happen each day throughout the week, Monday through Thursday, with Friday afternoon typically being reserved just for mile swim. It takes a lot of the staff to pull that off, so having a lot of other activities going on in the aquatics area is not feasible typically on a Friday afternoon. But you'll see that they can participate in that open swimming during that time, go out kayaks, canoes, rowboats, stand-up paddle boards, or the hydro bikes, just to enjoy the time in the aquatics area. Of course, there's Hucks Cove, which is our water park area at SBRF. You can see the water slides at Hucks Cove on the screen at the moment. And then they have the what the staff tend to call the rustic side with the zip line, the monkey bars, the rope swing, the blob, as long as it's not leaking, will be out there. all kinds of fun stuff for your time at Hucks Cove. That'll be an item that you'll request. Make sure that we know on the program form that you want to get a time in, and then either as you're arriving at camp or throughout that afternoon time frame on Sunday, we'll get you scheduled in for a time during the week to get over to Hucks Cove. We have the opportunity for out and abouts throughout the week. So an out and about is a basically canoe float out on the lake in one of the evenings, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, typically, where the staff, one of the troop counselors or another staff member will guide you around part of the lake. You can turn that into an overnight experience if you would like to, where they would help you get to one of the overnight sites along the lake where you could stay for the night instead of at your campsite. It doesn't have to be an entire group thing that goes. If you have a small group that wants to go and for the out and about, that's okay. It doesn't have to be the entire troop, and you'll be good. All right, evening programs. There'll be different programs throughout the week, just depending on the night. Obviously, we've talked about family night, the OA call out. We'll have opening campfire on Sunday as troops arrive. And then the program staff will have all kinds of excellent opportunities for you throughout the week, leading up to the closing campfire on Friday night as well. All right. Before I go to that staffing page, let me just take a moment here to answer the one question. So Joel asked if they decide not to take the class, will that refund for the supplies? Yeah, if they take a class that has a class fee with it, but then for some reason they decide to not take that, we work out getting that refund taken care of. It still has to go through our regular refund processing thing, so we can't like hand money back at the camp, but we can get the fees refunded if it is a class that has that for those supplies. But I will say, if they do, I had another question. What if we bring our own kits? That's fine. You're still going to get another one. Just to try it out this year, make it even across the board. That fee is going to cover the kit. So if you do have an additional one, they've done ahead of time or whatever, they're going to still receive one when they get to camp. So I'll bring this up and I'll let Bobby talk a little bit about some specific to Camp Gamble needs that they may still be looking for staff wise. And then I'll kind of mention a little bit in general around the council that we're looking for.
Sorry, my mouse disappeared there for a minute. Pulling up our vacancy list right now. For Camp Gamble, I know it says staff must be at least 15 years old. For Gamble right now, all of our vacancies are in the aquatics area. For the aquatics area, I personally want at least 16-year-olds in that area. It's the area where, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen there. So we need the most mature staff members in that area. It's also a Department of Labor rule that if you are on a natural body of water lifeguarding, you have to be at least 16. So there's two reasons there. We do have 4 spots open for aquatics area, and they are swimming related. We already have a canoeing and a small boat sailing counselor. So if you do have any people in your unit who are maybe on swim team or do water polo or some other swimming type activity and they're over 16, Camp Gamble runs from June 2nd to July 24th is what the employment dates are. So if they're looking to have a somewhere where they get to camp and get paid for it, that's a good opportunity. It's a very fun time. We also need a aquatics director. That has to be over 21-year-old, even more mature than the other ones, obviously, since they're running the area. They have to have Red Cross lifeguard, I believe. There's a couple other options too. And then they also have to attend a week of National Camp School, which is done through the BSA. But if you do know of any over 21-year-olds, teachers are a good option who might not have stuff going on over the summer. Not saying they don't do anything over the summer, but I think you all know what I mean on that. And then, or if you have, some some older scouts that might not be associated with your unit anymore, but you know that they're maybe in between jobs or looking for something to do for the summer, that would be optimal. One of those positions, we do still need a over 21-year-old female on our staff. So optimally, if you have a 21-year-old female, well, at least a 21-year-old female for aquatics director, that would be very much appreciated. So yeah, that's all we need for Gamble. The other camps also need other spots. So if you do have a 15-year-old that's maybe looking to get involved on camp staff, Famous Eagle has a couple spots open, as well as the other camps. So and then I'll take Q&As during the end for any questions about camp staff. So yeah.
Yep.
I think I hit on everything.
Fantastic. Yeah, we do have some opportunities at each of the camps. Some more specialized, especially on the Cub Scout side of things. At Camp May and Camp Warren Levis, there's a little bit more specialized needs there. Each day the number ticks down on the number of vacancies we've got, which is normal for this time of year. We're just wanting to make sure anytime we get a group of leaders together that we're mentioning those needs. Scouts are you work with them year round, you know your scouts really well, you know which ones might make good staff members. If you've got those older scouts that say, well, I've done everything at camp, well, you haven't done this yet. So it's a great opportunity for them to come out and have a great summer. I'm sure with the number of summers that Bobby did, and I know myself, some of the best times I've ever had are staffing at camp, and some of the best friends that I have who won't leave me alone, by the way. They keep messaging me tonight, 2 of them. So, they're made those friends while working on camp staff years ago, and still close today. So if anyone has someone that they think should apply, have them go ahead and do so. On that same stlbsa.org/camps, you'll see work at our camps, where the camp application or the staff application lives. Even if they can't make that entire time frame work, have them apply. We may have it to where we have 2 people that apply that can work each end of the summer, something like that. We will do what we can to make it work if it's the right person for the role. So that covers the formal part of the agenda for tonight, but we do want to leave time for questions that you might have. So again, you can type those into the chat box or unmute and ask it. Just ask that if you do unmute to ask a question, that you kind of beware of other people doing the same, and so that we can hear the question clearly.
I'll quickly address the Leaders Guide question from earlier. All of my area directors, I've sent them the Leaders Guide. They've read, or they will definitely at least read the portions pertaining to their areas, so they'll be aware. I've read it a few times, as you can imagine. That if there is a change to the Leaders Guide, I'll let you guys know during the Sunday night meeting, because as you all know, sometimes we do need to change stuff. So just because it's written down doesn't mean it's set in stone. So, yep.
Yeah. Matt asked about a scout asking if he could bring a bike to get around camp. There's not a rule against it. We are okay with it. They have to wear a helmet if they're going to bike on the property. And obviously their unit leadership needs to be okay with it, and they need to keep to especially on like corners on trails and things, they need to keep it to a minimum on the speed, just so that they're not taking out someone rounding a corner or anything like that. If it does become an issue with a scout, then we will take care of or we will ask that they not continue to use that bike throughout the week. But it is possible for them to have it there.
And I'll say, not to contradict Matt here, but at least a Gamble, if we could avoid having biker gangs going around camp and 40 kids bringing their bikes, that would be fantastic. As you all know, the trails have a lot of roots in them. They're pretty narrow in spots. So I don't want a first year tenderfoot scout getting taken out by a star scout on a bike. So obviously on the roads and stuff like that, it would be completely fine. So if they could just keep them off the trails.
Okay. David's question on the red card as an adult is CPR cert from the American Heart Association. Will that qualify? Yeah. So the red card has caused some confusion through the years. It is basically an instruction in the steps to CPR. That is it's essentially saying you've done this part. I'm sorry. It's just essentially saying that you've done that portion of the requirement that in that merit badge that it talks about. So someone with that certification could definitely instruct them in that for their red card training.
I'm gonna go through and give a little thumbs up as we answer the questions, just to make it easy for me and Matt to see who we've answered. So if you don't think we answered your question, give it a thumbs down and we'll see that.
Let's see, Mike, for the additional programs, can a troop reserve these for a given evening during our week? So if you're talking specifically like out and abouts and things like that, there'll be questions on the program form that will allow you to indicate the special programs that you are interested in. If you don't fill that out, work through the camp administration in the office there, and they'll do their best to set you a time while you were there.
And on the additional program, we're doing a Monday night overnight for OA members, which I don't think that's in the, well, I know it's not in the leader's guide, but that's something to kind of keep in the back of mind. Monday night, any of your people who are already in the OA can go to, we're going to go to the Overlook at the new Adirondacks that were built, and they're going to have an overnight out there. So
for parents that are only staying part of the week, are there certain hours that they need to arrive and depart? The best best time is sometime after breakfast, up until around 8 o'clock or so, in the evening, just because that is a normal operations of the camp day. Things are winding down after 8. I won't speak to Bobby's plans on how he plans to have the office manned. But typically that daytime is the best time for arriving and departing for part-time people.
And myself and my business manager, who's Josh Gann, I don't know if any of you know him. He worked in the Scoutcraft area last year, but we'll both have our cell phone numbers posted on the office if we're not in there, in case you need to get in touch with us. So
for Amy's question on just making sure that you've got that second leader, what if you for like one night, let's talk about that, but chances are you're on a site with another scout troop that we could talk with and see how many leaders they have and make something work. But definitely bring that up as you get a little closer to camp. We'll make sure that we can help you through that if you can't find that second leader for the night while you have to run out.
Amy, which unit are you in?
$390, she said. All right. Phil asked about current pay for camp staff. So there are some variables there, but I'll kind of shoot you a range. Anywhere from around 253 is kind of like the base, the start pay for like 15, 16-year-old for a week. So 253 a week. Obviously, we include room and board in that. So we're feeding them. If you have scouts that eat like some of them that I've seen, that may cover more than what they're getting paid in just food while they are there. But and then it goes up from there based on age, years of experience working at camp. I will say that for the aquatics director position, we are looking at 450 a week for that role. It's one of the most important ones in any camp, covering one of the most dangerous areas that we have. So if you do know of anyone in that realm, that is a higher pay rate for that area. They are definitely, if you have partial adults, they are definitely able to select which nights they're staying closer to the start of camp. Yes. To answer Matt's question there, if you just don't know yet, wait until they do know to sign them up. We get registrations really close to the start of camp, and that's something we always work through. But yeah, just make sure as you do find out that you get that done. I'm going to let the former Gamble staffer, Bobby, answer Nick's question on the ideal number of scouts for patrol cooking and what are the roles.
Give me 1 second.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
My chat screen disappeared and I'm trying to find it. There we go. What is the ideal number of scouts for patrol cooking and what are the roles? More cooks in the kitchen is not necessarily a good thing. So, you know, I personally was in a very large unit when I was a youth. I was in 313 in De Pere, which had like 100+ kids in it when we would come to camp. Which I'm sure a lot of us would wish our troops were that large. Um, but if you do have a smaller unit, you're likely paired up with another unit on your site. If you are concerned about that, I'm not sure if this was a question about is more or less an issue. But I mean, really, there's only going to be probably 2 or 3 people cooking at a time. So it's not like you're going to have the whole patrol all trying to cook eggs in one pan. Usually what happens is part of the patrol will take cleanup duty, part of the patrol will do cooking duty, and part of the patrol will go to the commissary. So they can kind of divvy it out. If you do have a concern when you actually get to camp, that would be a question for your commissioner or troop counselor. And if they're not answering it, you can shoot me a text or come find me. So.
Okay. Introduction to outdoor leadership skills that does get offered throughout the week. You don't actually have to sign up ahead of time for it. Typically, that'll get more details will be covered at Sunday night leader meeting. But you can just sign up when you're there. If they are interested in doing the Scoutmaster and Assistant Leader specific training that will be offered, that is typically on Wednesdays at Leadership Hall at Famous Eagle. When they do that, there is a online sign up you can do ahead of time. There's not a fee for either of those trainings. The only time there will be a fee is for that Scoutmaster and Assistant Leader specific training, and that's only if they want the books that go along with it. So Troop Committee Guidebook, Troop Leader Guidebook, Volume 1 and 2. So there's 3 total books, and it comes out to typically around $20 if they do want to purchase those books. Joel, for your question about recommended as far as cooking as patrols versus adults, whether you split up the leaders, a lot will depend on your overall group size and the size of your patrols. You have to have a certain number of adults before it would be considered its own patrol. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head because I'm still learning a lot about Gamble, which is one reason I'm very grateful to have Bobby on board, who's been there in the past. But it really does vary based on your overall group size and how the patrols break out. Troops do it either way, just depending on what works best for them.
Yeah, typically the adults are in like an old goats type patrol and they'll cook by themselves. They'll usually have some nicer equipment than the scouts. But yeah, personally, I think it's better for the scouts to cook by themselves and figure out how to do it by themselves. They can learn some good life skills without a parent, watching over their shoulder while they mess something up. So.
Matt, in response to the scout that may need to spend those nights at home instead of at camp, that is feasible. There just needs to be the appropriate sign in, sign out process handled that you could arrange with Bobby and the other camp leadership once you're there. It is doable. I've seen that happen before. I think I had a scout last year at Famous Eagle that was actually in a similar situation where they did that. So it is doable. Just communicate with Bobby so that we know to expect that and get that process worked out for you.
Yeah, and if you have, I think I'll drop my email in the chat just in case anybody missed it earlier, but feel free to email me about that type of thing. When you do come to camp, if you have a picture maybe of who's picking them up, just so we know what they look like, that would be good too. So.
Yep. I think that was just answering a previous question. For the Wayfinder program, there are not merit badges formally included in the program. They do need to sign up for those separately for any that they want to take during those open times that they're not in that particular program. Used to be it included 2 different merit badges in the Voyager program. we wanted to open it up to where they had that flexibility to pick and choose more of what they did throughout the week. Some of the leaders that helped us redesign the program said, as they move throughout Cub Scouting, they get into Webelos and Arrow of Light, they're doing more and more electives, so they get to choose more of what they do, and then they come to Scouts BSA camp for the first time, and they were plugged into, this is the program you're doing, that you don't get any flexibility with it. So that was the main driver for that change, to where it opened it up for them to choose those things on their own. It's the last unanswered question that I see in the chat. Which by no means means that if you think of something like, oh, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, so in the past for swim tests, we were told that we couldn't use our swim tests in the pool from a swimming pool, because we had to do the swim test in open water. It sounds like this isn't the case anymore.
Right. Yeah. Swim tests are good no matter which body of water they're in, because
Okay.
it's the same test no matter. Just be aware of those scouts that may just be
Right.
honest, they might freak out
Right.
a little bit about the lake part. They swim by a plant that touches their leg, and they're not going to run into that in a pool.
Right.
And
Right.
so, but yeah, it's not the swim test is more about the distance and the strokes and all
Okay.
than it is about where it's done.
Okay, thank you.
So again, if between now and camp, of course, you have any other questions, reach out to us so that we can answer them. We want you to be as fully prepared as possible when you arrive at camp. So that is really important to us. The Mike asked about that program form. Again, that will be emailed out to the registration contact prior to your week of camp, usually about 2 weeks out, so that the staff can get that all handled. So that'll come in an email to you closer to your time at camp.
And if you guys Google 2023 Gamble, it'll take you to the Black Pug site where you register. There's something on there called the campsite alignment matrix. If you click on that, you can see if there is another unit on your campsite. When I was going through, I actually went through all the leader evals from last year and was looking at some of the issues, and that was a common one of some units thought that they had the campsite all to themselves, and then they got there and discovered that they didn't. That's a good way to kind of have a heads up about that. We'll let you know when we contact you about 2 weeks out. But if you do have a concern about another unit that's on your site, and it's a legitimate concern, let us know and we can possibly move people around. Obviously, there's capacity and boy-girl issues and stuff like that we have to take into consideration. Especially if you are in June 18th week, that week is very full. I think there's maybe 2 units that aren't on a site with somebody else. So that's something to just let you all know that you can look at.
Yeah, that report that Bobby just mentioned, that matrix, if you're on the registration site, so as he said, that if you just Google Gamble 2023, it will come up, and then in the attachments on that page off to the right hand side, or if you're on your phone, it's just down below. It'll be a attachments portion, and it'll say campsite alignment matrix. And as you click that link, it runs the report. So it's not something we have to upload and update. It's always up to date in real time. So you can see it there. And Chris, with requesting to share, it's possible, but at this point in time, so many sites are taken up. So it is possible, but sometimes it takes a lot of juggling to make that.
So if we wanted to request a specific 2 troops to be together, we should do that at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. And we will, one of my goals is before we get to the end of the first week of summer camp to have I think a better laid out guide of how to sign up for camp, what the stages are, instructions, how things work, just because it's a little bit confusing and intimidating for some of the newer leaders. And that's the kind of information that we can also include in that to help out for future years.
The actual link in the chat and reply to somebody. It's quite the link. So
yeah, it is. Wow.
Going to give your computer a virus. So
all right. Well, again, we appreciate you all taking the time to be here tonight to help get ready to host the your week at or host your troop at summer camp this year. Sorry, I was reading as I was trying to talk, and that just does not work well for me. But we thank you for all the time that you spend with your scouts year round, and for taking the time to be here tonight to learn more about summer camp and make sure that you're well prepared to have a great time with the troop when you're at camp. So again, this recording will get posted tomorrow on the website. So make sure if you have any other questions, you can review that. We will also post the PowerPoint slides as a PDF so you can see those and share them as well. And I agree, is a great roundtable topic. If I get that guide put together, we could definitely do that August, September timeframe to get everyone on board and understanding the process. So again, we thank you and hope that you all have a great night. Bobby, do you have any closing comments?
I think the only thing I'll say is, from looking through those leader evals a few times, I noticed there's a lot of issues that are addressed in the leader evals, and this was the case when I was working as well. That probably should have been addressed during a leaders meeting earlier in the week, but it was withheld. One thing we're going to do at Gamble this year, we're at least going to try it out for the first couple of weeks and see how it goes, is a very short kind of, how would you rate your week, 1 through 10? Is there any problem areas that we should know about? That way, if it's something that you're uncomfortable bringing up during a leaders meeting, we can address it. I know last year there was like a week where there was an issue with toilet paper, even though it was actually there, stuff like that we could actually find out about, because my goal is to make sure that everybody gets their money's worth for camp, that your scouts have fun, and that they want to come back, obviously with safety being before all of that. But I want to make sure that you guys are getting a good value out of this, and that you're not having a not fun week. So I think that's probably it.
Just answer that last question that had popped up, asking, since some of the sessions, the merit badge classes are filling up. Basically the easy thing is not in the plan currently, because it's the way it's laid out with the staffing to fill all the needs of the classes. If we determine that it is something we could do, then we will do so and make sure that everyone is made aware of it prior to. The other option would be, once you're there at camp, if you discuss as leaders at one of the leader meetings and determine there's a registered counselor for a badge that wants to work with some scouts at a different time, that's always okay to do as well.
Right.
All right.
You can ask a question.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, it's a little bit of a specific question about OA elections, but the last couple years on the day of OA elections, I guess Shawnee Lodge, I think, changed the rule that you didn't need half of the number of your total unit in the vote for OA election. Our troop goes to like 2 different camps, so we don't always have that many campers at Gamble, and so we don't have half of our whole troop at Gamble. So best I understood from the Shawnee Lodge leadership was you only needed half of the votes of those in camp, not half of your entire troop, unit roster to be elected. But there was always confusion on that, because the form that the troop counselor brought to the morning election still had sort of that national rule, and we had to always clear it up in kind of a chaotic way that morning. So I don't know if that can be just like clarified before with Shawnee Lodge, or it may apply to other OA.
Yeah,
groups
we
too.
can definitely hit on that with the OA coordinators to make sure that the staff that are going to be conducting the elections have a clear understanding. I will say that it is the correct number is it's half of your registered active membership, which is a number that the leadership of the troop has to supply, because we don't know your active register. We don't know how many that is. So, but we will definitely make sure, Brian, that we address that with the OA coordinators, and
Okay. Yeah, thank
sure
you.
that they're all on the same page.
Yep, thanks.
And Brian,
George,
for the future,
go ahead.
you could probably also look at doing a elsewhere election prior to summer camp as well. That's an option. So
Yeah, we've thought about that too, but yeah, we'll think about it some more, maybe.
Sure. And then George, if you've got a question.
Yeah, two things. I was looking at the BSA swim classification record, and there was a comment on the second page about the one-on-one with the certified lifeguard to the swimmer. You know, if we take 20 some odd swimmers over there, they have to go one at a time on the get classified.
That is the way the test is meant to be administered. I know some lifeguards will feel comfortable monitoring more than one scout at a time. It's written that way so that they're verifying that they are following the test and doing it in the right way. Often that is left on our end to the kind of the discretion of that person doing the certification.
I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Yep.
And then I'm looking at the campsite alignment matrix, and I see that my female troop has 1.6 youth and 0.4 adults unassigned.
So that can, there's a couple reasons that happens, and it is goofy as can be. We are not chopping up scouts, I promise, but
Okay.
they either have a partial registration that is not booked through the checkout yet, or at one point they had more signed up than what they have now, and there's this little remainder hanging out there that we will get cleaned up. I try to look at that every couple of weeks to get them cleaned up. It's just a goofy part of the system that throws them down into that unassigned area every once in a while.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we are just over that hour time limit, so we will go ahead and close for tonight. Again, thank you for your attendance. Your questions are great. Again, reach out if you have anything else that we can do to make your week at camp better this summer. Thank you all.